A treehouse perched on top of a tiny tree, ready to collapse at any moment. If you value your life, you should stay well away from any of these tree dwellings. Here are the top 15 most dangerous treehouses. Number 15. Eve Treehouse. At the Free Spirit Ranch on Vancouver Island in Canada, a former boatmaker has turned his attention to building treehouses. Inspired by the domes used by ocean explorers, he's built 4 wooden spheres that are suspended from the trees. Each one took more than 2,000 hours to complete, and while they look stunning at over 15 feet in the air, this is definitely somewhere you need to keep your wits around you if you ever want to spend the night. They're only accessible via precarious steps and walkways, and when a storm blows in, people aren't allowed inside just in case the houses sway too much or become detached from their tethers. During calm weather, though, they're a unique way to enjoy the surrounding landscape, and it's no wonder they've become a popular tourist attraction. Number 14. Burning Man Steampunk Treehouse. Held annually since 1986, Burning Man is a festival in the Black Rock Desert that's become synonymous with freedom and the shunning of pressures of modern life. For over a week, the site is transformed with art installations and performances. But in 2007, one of the most impressive structures of all was created, the Steampunk Treehouse. Suspended 40 feet in the air on a tree that was made from steel girders, inside there's a small room made from wood and steel that's covered in steampunk-inspired decor. Designed mainly as a work of art, you wouldn't exactly want to stay the night in this treehouse, and the only way to get in is by climbing up a narrow, wobbly ladder. Following that year's festival, the treehouse was dismantled and exhibited at various sites before finding a permanent home at a brewery in Delaware, where visitors aren't allowed because of safety concerns. Number 13. Horo Y Treehouses. The Horo Y people are one of the last communities in the world that live virtually unaffected from the outside, but occasionally allow visitors to see their unique homes. Nestled deep within the forests of West Papua in Indonesia, instead of building houses on the ground, they instead construct them high up in the trees. The structures can be between 32 and 130 feet in the air and are made from a solid base of wood, with leaves and plant material used for the roofs. Of course, the villagers are quite comfortable climbing this high into the trees, so don't build the most stable of ladders to access them, nor do they pay too much attention to installing safety barriers in the homes themselves. While this may be perfectly safe for them, it most certainly isn't for anyone who's not used to this way of life. So even if you were invited to, this is unlikely to be a safe place for you to stay. Number 12. The Hemlock Loft. If you're looking for a secret treetop getaway, then there's probably no better place than the Hemlock Loft, an egg-shaped timber structure that was built by a self-taught carpenter on a plot of public land in Whistler, Canada. The project took several years to complete without the permissions from authorities, but it's so hidden away that no one knows precisely where it is except for a select few trusted people. The views across a hemlock grove are unlike anything else you'll see. But sat above a steep drop and with an access bridge that's somewhat precarious, visitors have to be extremely careful because one wrong step could see you plummet into the valley below. Furthermore, as it's not built on private land, this treehouse isn't technically owned by the person who built it. So if you stayed there, you could also find yourself being evicted by local officials if they decide that it's time to remove it. Number 11. Bird's Nest Treehouse. Creatures in the animal kingdom have developed ingenious ways to build their own homes, and quite often we could do no better than by looking to them for inspiration of how to design our own structures. In the jungles of Bangladesh, there's a village called Ektarpar, where the locals have for hundreds of years built houses in the trees that are directly influenced by those that are made by birds. By starting with a wood and bamboo frame, the bird's nest treehouse is covered in sticks and branches, just like how weaver birds make theirs, although on a much larger scale. Once the structure is complete, it's attached to a vine and hoisted up into the tree, keeping the occupants safe from any large predators that prowl at night. Of course, if you're not used to this way of living, then it's a very precarious structure to stay in. They sway in the wind, and there's not exactly a safe and sturdy ladder for getting in. But for the villagers who build them, they're ideal. Number 10. Pinecone Treehouse. Suspended high among the giant redwood trees in Bonnie Doon, California, is a treehouse like no other. Just 15 minutes away from Santa Cruz, it's been designed with aesthetics in mind rather than practicality, and is a wonder to see. Known as the Pinecone Treehouse, the geometric shape uses transparent materials to let in as much light as possible and to allow those inside unparalleled views over the surrounding forest. At between 30 and 60 feet from the ground depending on which way you look out of it, this isn't such a great place for those with vertigo. It's also described as an exhilarating adventure getting into the Pinecone Treehouse in the first place, as the only way to enter is via a very steep ladder that leads to a trap door in its base. This sure isn't one for the faint-of-hearted, but for everyone else, it's a magical experience. Number 9. Treehouse Lodge. Deep in the Amazon rainforest in Peru, there's a place where you can become at one with nature. High in the tree canopy, called the Treehouse Lodge. Built completely by hand to ensure no damage was caused to the surrounding land, this collection of 12 traditionally constructed bungalows are 40 feet off the ground and offer an incredibly close-up view of everything that surrounds it. Encircling a central structure where food and drinks are served, each component of the sprawling structure is connected by raised wooden pathways and steel cable bridges, and all the power is generated by the on-site solar panels. Designed for comfort with mosquito nets around each bed, you'll need a head for heights to enjoy a stay here. And since part of its appeal is the way it offers the full Amazon experience, you'll never quite know what you'll see next. It's quite possible you could wake up to find a giant deadly Brazilian wandering spider walking through the bedroom, or encounter large predators while exploring the jungle floor. Of course, you'll also see countless stunning birds, insects, and other various species too. So with the potential danger also comes a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Before we move on, be sure to subscribe to Top 5s with notifications on. Number 8. Soneva Kiri Tree Pod. Soneva Kiri is one of the most exclusive resorts that you can stay at in Thailand. But for those looking to take their relaxing experience that extra step further, they offer an amazing experience where you can have dinner in the trees thanks to the custom-built tree pods. You start by sitting in the basket at a table on ground level, and then are hoisted up under the shelter to give stunning views across the jungle. The one problem, though, is that there's no way to get out if needs be. The food is delivered by waiters who use a zip line to reach the table, and since guests don't have a harness for themselves, they have to wait till they're lowered back down to the ground again before they're free. While some love this idea of treetop isolation, there's a serious safety question about what you'd do if there was an emergency when you're there. It takes a while for the tree pod to be lowered again, so if you ever decide to go up there, you would better be sure you're feeling healthy enough to be there for the entire experience. And definitely make sure you visit the bathroom before sitting at the table. Number 7. Gibbon Experience Treehouse. The Gibbon Experience is a surreal tourist destination in the jungles of Laos, where several tree houses have been built as high up in the forest canopy as was possible. Some of them are 131 feet above the ground, and this makes for an incredible night's stay, so long as you can get to them. The only way to access these structures is by zip line, and the attraction is known for having some of the highest and longest cables in the world. One which reaches out across a forest valley is 1,870 feet long. But while this is an amazing adventure for the backpackers and tourists who visit, it comes with its risks. If there's a problem, there's virtually no way that assistance can be provided, and in the past few years, at least one person has died while attempting to traverse the network of ladders, zip lines, and perilous walkways. The danger comes from the fact that it's each person's responsibility to make sure they're clipped onto the zip lines correctly, whereas at most other venues, you'd have a professional on hand to be certain that you're totally safe. This certainly adds to the exhilaration, but significantly increases the danger aspect too. Number 6. Casa de Leon. The Finca Bella Vista Treehouse community in Costa Rica allows people to buy their own plot of land to build their very own treehouses, which has led to the creation of a unique treetop village in a stunning region of the rainforest across an area of around 600 acres. Casa de Leon is one of these structures and is available for guests to hire. It has 3 levels, including a sleeping loft that's above the main living area, a basic kitchen, and access to the wider community. There's no electricity in this treehouse, and the owners point out that you won't have internet access either, and the only way to reach the site in the first place is a treacherous 2-hour off-road drive through the jungle. Just getting there has its risks, and in such an isolated location, only basic medical help will be available if an accident happens. These sacrifices are worth it though, if you're looking for a secluded, back-to-basic style of living in one of the world's most beautiful rainforests. Activities on offer include jungle treks, yoga sessions, and ziplining, meaning it's the perfect retreat from modern life. Number 5. Beach Rock Village Treehouse. The Beach Rock Village Treehouse in Okinawa, Japan is one of the highest treehouses in the world. Placed near the top of one of the tallest trees in the area, it was built in 2005 with the intent to offer people a way to communicate with the space outside and offer respite from pressures of living in a city. The small room is covered in plexiglass, which means the environment inside changes throughout the day as the sun passes over, and it definitely makes you feel detached from everything else in the world. This seclusion, however, isn't particularly easy to get to and requires you to climb 2 sets of precarious ladders. The first leads to a viewing platform halfway up the tree. And once you've regained your composure, you're ready to climb up the second that leads to a trap door in the base of the treehouse. For those really wanting to take their lives into their hands, there's a swing attached to the house which allows you to fly out over the surrounding trees. But you would better make sure you're securely strapped in, because one wrong move and you'll find yourself plummeting more than 80 feet to the ground. Number 4. Becasue Beyond. The amazing-looking Becasue Beyond, which translates to mean the tea house built to high, is a traditional Japanese tea house in Chino, Japan, but one that's been suspended at the top of 2 chestnut trees. According to the man responsible for it, the structure got higher and higher as he thought about it for 2 years, and it took him a while to find the perfect trees. They were cut from a nearby forest and positioned in deep holes in the ground to provide the foundations, and the house was built piece by piece once they were in place. With a floor space of only around 65 square feet, there's barely enough room for a child to stand up in it, let alone an adult. But this place is designed to sit and relax. To enter, you have to climb a precarious freestanding ladder, and there's room inside for 2, possibly 3 people. Beyond its location and small size, the Treehouse is traditional in every other way. There's a hearth in the corner with a chimney above, and the roof is covered in hand-rolled copper sheets. The architect himself says that with room for just 4.5 tatami mats, this structure can, at times, feel more like a piece of clothing than a building. Number 3. Pantry Top Cabins. Treehouses are usually built with a solid, immovable tree as their base. But one architect in Norway decided to do things a little differently. Instead of using one of the many trees in the nearby woodland to install his homes, he instead built his structures on precarious-looking steel stilts. The 2 designs, known as the Pantry Top Cabins, are clad in black, and they're intended to stand out against their surroundings rather than blending in with them. Spiral staircases lead up to each one, and the modern color scheme is maintained throughout. But you have to wonder just how stable they truly are, especially positioned so close to the cliff edge. The struts aren't buried into the ground, so these are freestanding and can be moved with enough force. You definitely wouldn't want to be in one if a powerful storm blew over. They're a part of a tourist retreat for those looking to live in the treetops without actually being on one themselves. Definitely shun the usual ideas of treehouse design that usually makes it look as if the houses have grown there naturally. Number 2. The Ministers Treehouse. The biggest treehouse ever made is also the most dangerous one ever made. But that doesn't stop the Ministers Treehouse in Crossville, Tennessee from being a modern marvel. It was conceived and built by Minister Horace Burgess, who was apparently praying in 1993 when God spoke to him and told him to begin work on a wooden home in the trees. The minister embarked upon a 14-year mission to make his design a reality, and despite its gigantic size, he amazingly only spent $12,000 on it, relying mainly on discarded materials and donations to put it all together. When it was finished, it was over 97 feet tall and had more than 80 rooms over 5 different stories. It contained a church, a bell tower, and even its own basketball court, all built around a still-living 80-foot-tall white oak tree. He used more than 258,000 nails from a nail gun to hold it up, along with a reported 500 pounds of penny nails that were hammered in by hand. Unsurprisingly, it soon became a popular tourist attraction, and the minister performed 23 weddings inside. But the newfound fame of the place also drew the attention of safety officials. It was closed to the public in 2012 because it wasn't built to the expected building and fire safety codes, and for several years was left abandoned, falling into a state of disrepair. The true danger of this place finally became apparent in October of 2019. During a storm, the entire structure, including its supporting trees, caught on fire, and the raging inferno had burned it all to the ground within just 15 minutes. By the time the fire department had arrived on the scene, there was nothing for them to save, and the minister's hard work had literally gone up in smoke. Quite how the fire started is still not known, but thankfully there hadn't been anyone in the structure at the time, because there would have been virtually no way for them to escape. Number 1. Casa del Arbol. While the actual structure of the Casa del Arbol in Ecuador may seem firmly set within a solid tree, there's an attraction there that seems a lot less safe for people that decide to give it a try. Located deep within the forest, the treehouse itself is actually a seismic monitoring station that looks out across the nearby Mount Tungurahua, which is an active volcano and often sends shudders throughout the surrounding landscape. The main draw for tourists here, however, is something that's been installed on one of the tree's skinny branches, the so-called swing at the end of the world. Held by just a flimsy strap, those who are brave enough can swing out across the canyon from a position that's more than 8,500 feet above sea level. It's an experience only for the brave, because if you slipped, there'd be no way to stop yourself as you slid down the steep slope. It does, however, offer a stunning view across the Ecuadorian wilderness, which arguably makes it worth the risk. Subscribe to Top 5s for more and check out some of our other popular videos.